keep your mind still. That is enough. Ramana Maharshi said this to people who had practiced for years and arrived in front of him with the particular tiredness of someone who has gotten somewhere, but not there. Here's the moment I want to describe. See if you recognize it. You're sitting in the car after arriving somewhere, engine off, not ready to go in yet. A moment with no task in it. The mind gets quieter. You notice it getting quieter. Then you notice yourself noticing, and the noticing is movement. So you try to stop noticing, which is also movement. And somewhere in there, the whole thing becomes a kind of surveillance operation. You're no longer resting. You're monitoring a rest. That's where most of it actually goes. Not into stillness, into oversight. I'm not going to fix that today. I want to sit with this sentence, keep your mind still, the same way I've been sitting with it, because it hasn't fully landed for me, and I've been watching why. You've been doing something with this instruction for a while. The effort has gotten more refined with time. You sit longer. The outer form got steadier. But there's a quality underneath that hasn't changed much. It's a vigilance, a kind of careful, exhausted attention that holds the edges of the mind and waits for the real quiet to arrive. Always positioned just slightly ahead of where you actually are, always assessing. And the sentence became a standard, something you were either meeting or falling short of, mostly falling short. There's an exhaustion inside that, specific and familiar. I want to come back to it. The trying as movement, not as metaphor. Literally, effort is the mind reaching for something it doesn't currently have. To try to keep the mind still is to generate the very activity you're working against. You can feel this at the start of a set. The moment you form the intention to be still, the mind has already moved toward stillness. It's already reaching before anything deliberate has happened. The instruction has failed before it began, and yet the trying continued, because stopping felt like giving up, and giving up felt like failing at the one thing that was supposed to matter. Ramana said something else to people who had come to him after exactly that. People expect something to happen, something to drop from heaven in a flash. It is nothing of the sort. Only the notion that you are the body, that you are this or that, will go. You will remain as you are. You will remain as you are, just what you are, without the overlay of what you'd decided needed correcting. He wasn't describing a result that accumulates through practice. He was describing what becomes visible when a certain kind of effort stops. The people in front of him had practiced for years. They hadn't come for more technique. They'd come because the technique had reached its limit. And what he kept pointing toward wasn't something that could be added. It was already the case, obscured by the machinery of trying to find it. Keep your mind still. From inside that doesn't mean try harder. It's pointing somewhere else entirely. What I haven't worked out, and I want to say this directly, is whether I'm actually seeing what I'm about to point at, or whether I've just gotten good at describing it. There's a difference, and I'm not always certain which is happening when I speak. There's something none of us questioned, not because it was hidden, because it seemed too obvious to be a question. The idea that there is someone in here who needs to do the keeping. That's the entire architecture of the effort. There's you, the keeper, and there's the mind, the thing being kept, subject and object, the practitioner, and what's being practiced on. This felt so natural that examining it directly never quite happened. Of course, there's someone meditating. Of course, the I is the one doing something. That's just how experience works. Ramana didn't say, You need to keep your mind still. He said, keep your mind still. Present tense, almost descriptive, as if stillness were already the ground and something were interrupting it. How to do the keeping is the wrong question. Who is it that's making the mind move? That exhaustion belongs to the keeper. All that watching, all that holding, and the keeper has never once asked what it's actually doing. Try something, not a practice, just a noticing. Right now, without adjusting your posture, without deciding whether this is working, notice what's already noticing. Not the thought that just arrived, the noticing itself. What's here before you do anything with it? It's there before you start assessing, before any question of whether this is useful. It doesn't arrive with drama. There's no announcement. It feels more like something that was here the whole time. So constant, it became the background you stopped seeing, because there seemed to be more interesting things to look at. The mind moves across it. Whatever you're feeling right now is arising somewhere, into something. The noticing that's registering these words. That isn't moving. There's nowhere for it to move. It's not a thing with edges that could be stilled, because it's what stillness is prior to any effort. The keeper was trying to produce that. It was standing on it the whole time. Keep your mind still. Heard from here isn't an instruction you failed to follow correctly. It was pointing at what was already the case before the first attempt, and what generated the years of failure, the exhaustion, the surveillance. It wasn't the mind refusing to cooperate. It was the presence of someone trying to create something that was never absent. The waves of the self are pervading everywhere. If the mind is in peace, one begins to experience them. Ramana didn't frame that as a result. Not if the mind achieves peace, if the mind is in peace. As if peace were the natural condition and turbulence the interruption. The stillness was already there. The waves already there. The years of practice, the careful attention. All of that was generating the felt sense of distance. The search kept creating what it was trying to close. You didn't fail to keep your mind still. You kept attempting something that can't be done, because the one doing the attempting was the movement itself. Nothing needs correcting from here. It's just what was happening. And sitting with this now, it may be slightly more visible than it was a few minutes ago. There's something I keep returning to. It's not comfortable. If the mind becomes still, the moment the keeper stops keeping, what was the keeping for? And more quietly, who was it that was keeping?